Hello, this is David from DN Cognitive Counseling. Tonight I got a question on the video I did about Cain and Abel. And the question was, how could anybody in a scientific world who understands that the world is over 4 billion years old believe anything that was written in a book that seems to deny any aspect of science? Wouldn't that invalidate its belief? And wouldn't you say that a book like that should not even be discussed? And I thought the question was a very valid question. The only thing I had to ask to the person asking the question is, does the book deny that the universe is 4 billion years old, or that, 7 billion years old, and that the earth is over 4 billion years old? Because does the book talk about time in that way? Now, most people say absolutely. There are either 6 days of creation, and you could work your way back and figure out how old the earth is based upon that, whether you're going to be 500 or 600 or 700 years difference. It won't make a difference, but you'd be able to say there's no way in the world you're going to get to 4 billion years. Well, I think that there's a misreading of the first 6 days of creation. And a lot of people don't actually look at this or analyze it, because normally most people learn about the first 6 days of creation when you're like a kid, like very young. And you don't really understand what is being said, other than you remember that there were 6 days. And the 6 days were just like these 6 days that went off, and that's when God created the world. But as we get older, we can look at things a little deeper and see whether or not that even makes sense. So if we ever take a look, I'm just going to use any translation. This is from the NIV Cultural Background Study Bible. It doesn't make a difference which one you use. Almost every single one, they have a lot of differences actually, but in terms of what I want to talk about, all the words are still the same in what I'm talking about, and there's no difference. You could use the King James Version, you can use any version you like. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty, darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. That's basically the first and the second verses. And the third verse, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, which I think is very, very interesting, but we'll talk about that maybe another time or a little bit later. God saw the light was good, and he separated the light from darkness, and he called the light day, and he called darkness night. And there was evening and morning of first day. Now most people go, well, that's the first day, where basically there was a creation of light and dark. And if you're going to say, well, what is light? Most people would say it's the sun, right? The sun was created on the first day, darkness was then separated from it, and bam, there you have it. There's a bunch of problems with understanding it on that level, and that is the words themselves. In the 5th verse, it says, "And there was evening, and there was morning," the first day. Now, let's just take today. What time was evening today? So, tonight I think it was about 8:45, 8:35, depending where you are, maybe 9 o'clock, depending where you are. But let's just say 8 p.m. tonight was evening. Let's just assume we just take that as a given. And let's assume for a minute it's a 12-hour night today. That would make it tonight, this morning, at 8 a.m. Let's assume that would be morning. Let's just give those two. Let's make it real easy. How many hours was your day? You have a 12-hour day. Is that how we measure days, in 12-hour periods? Or do we measure days in 24-hour periods? So if a day is only a 12-hour period, then what are we talking about here? And in fact, in all the days of creation, you'll see there was an evening and there was a morning, the second day, an evening and a morning, the third day, an evening and a morning, the fourth day. So the question becomes, if you're saying, I can't believe this, because any book that espouses that the world is this amount of time old, well, then you have to understand what its timeline is and what it's referring to. Also, very interesting, we said on the first day, it said there was light, right? So therefore that was the sun. Except it can't be. Because when you understand what it says on the fourth day, and this is in the 14th verse, "And God said, let there be light in the vault of the sky, to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark the sacred times of the days and the year." So in other words, he said, I'm going to make lights, and let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. and then the stars. And then he also made the stars. So, in other words, the sun and the moon are created on the fourth day. If the sun and the moon are created on the fourth day, then what's going on, and what is this night and evening, or evening and morning, at all the first 3 days till the fourth day? How do you have an evening and a morning without a sun? I think the aspect is that the days of creation are not days of creation that we're talking about. And the first thing, again, that God said, let there be light. Now, it's very interesting. In Gerald Schrodinger wrote a book called Genesis and the Big Bang. It's a brilliant book. I would suggest you take it up and pick it up. It just gives you an idea of a different way of looking at things. Mr. Schrodinger is a physicist. And what he explains in his book is that first light that is being referred to in the Bible was what he thinks is the Big Bang. Now, I don't know his understanding of these verses or of him ever going through them, but he goes through trying to explain how the scientific aspect of this, of the nature of the light and the Big Bang, actually go together. Now, what's interesting is that today we believe in matter, or, there's the aspect of the matter of the universe. And there's also something called, now in science we learn, is something called dark matter. And the reason why they came up with the theory of dark matter is that the universe itself can't mathematically be understood with just the matter that we see. And even though we haven't been able to find or see that dark matter exists, in physics it's believed that dark matter is around, because otherwise we don't have a problem here, which is also why they also came up with dark energy. But, and a whole other thing. But if that, and again, I'm only theorizing here now, if that is the issue of why, of the light being the matter that was created in the Big Bang, and the darkness being the dark matter, that would be a very interesting idea about this idea of creation, and about what is happening. Well, people will say, what about the third day? God says he created the vegetation, and he created the trees that bear fruit. And it's true. It does say that in verse 11 and 12 and 13 for the third day. The only thing is, later on, when God creates man, it says then that the earth, the vegetation, and all the trees didn't sprout yet. So later on, it seems to say that there was some sort of aspect of putting into the world this ability for it to happen, but it didn't happen yet. So, again, to understand these concepts, and again, I'm not telling you that there's a way to, that I'm going to tell you everything that's going to make perfect sense. But to say to somebody, how could you believe in this book that says something that is so scientifically untrue? It's not necessarily true that it's so scientifically untrue. It's about understanding even what you're talking about and what's real and what's not real. And a lot of times, people don't understand what the actual words were to begin with, and they have a very simplistic idea of it. In listening to people who criticize religions, whether it be Islam, Christianity, Judaism, or even Buddhism or Zennism or Taoism, what I find is that most people's criticism initially starts out of ignorance. It's, I don't believe this, I don't like this. That's not how you approach any form of understanding religion. You can't approach it from the outside of saying it's wrong from the beginning and the get-go. The best way I find that you approach religions is, what does the religion say unto itself, and how does it have what is called internal validity? Does it make sense in itself? And that's one of the ways you want to take a look to understand first anybody's religious belief. I hope that this was helpful to you. I hope that you like this video, and if you like it, hit like. If you dislike it, please tell me why. And if you have anything to add to the conversation or something that I missed or you disagree with, I'd love to hear it in the comments below. And if you'd like to become a patron, hit the subscribe star link on the bottom. And I wish you a good night and good mental health.